We have some major updates regarding the national effort to remove suppressors and short-barreled rifles from the National Firearms Act. The Hearing Protection Act and the Short Act have both made progress. The current versions, which reduce the $200 tax to $0, have officially passed in the Senate. That version is now heading back to the House, and as of now, there are active efforts underway to get the full versions added back into the bill, not just the tax reduction. Let me walk you through exactly what's going on. Earlier today, we got confirmation that the $0 tax versions of these provisions were passed as part of H.R. 1, which is the comprehensive bill currently in focus. What many are calling the Big Beautiful Bill. Some people are celebrating this as a victory, and I understand why. But let's be clear. While it's a step forward, it's not the final goal. What we actually need is full removal of suppressors and short-barreled rifles from the NFA altogether. That's the only move that will truly eliminate the unconstitutional restrictions gun owners have faced for decades. A simple tax cut won't do anything to address the registration requirements, regulations, or legal risks still tied to these items. This is especially critical for those of us in states like California, where suppressors and SBRs are already banned at the state level. A tax reduction won't change that. What we need is full removal from the NFA, which would give us a foundation to challenge these state-level bans through the courts. Now here's where it gets interesting. Yesterday, we received confirmation that the Senate Parliamentarian gave the green light to include the $0 tax version in the bill. However, there was some back and forth last night about potentially changing that to a $1 fee, and a point of order was raised challenging the legitimacy of the tax cut under Senate rules. But in the end, H.R. 1 did pass in the Senate, and it includes the $0 tax version. That's what is now going back to the House. At the same time, pro-2A lawmakers and organizations are working hard to get the full versions of the Hearing Protection Act and the Short Act added back into the bill. Today we got even more encouraging news. Representative Ben Cline has officially proposed an amendment that would restore the full language of both the HPA and Short Act into H.R. 1. That's exactly what we've been pushing for. Right now, immense pressure is being put on Speaker Mike Johnson to include the full versions in the House bill. If you care about your rights, this is the time to act. Call this number, 202-225-2777. Tell them you support the full versions of the Hearing Protection Act and the Short Act, not just a $0 tax. If those full versions are successfully added back into H.R. 1 in the House, the bill will head back to the Senate, and that's when we must turn up the heat on the Senate side again. We'll need to push even harder for the removal of the Parliamentarian if she stands in the way of passing the full repeal. There's also discussion happening about tossing out the Senate's version of the bill altogether and reverting back to the original House version. But here's the issue with that. The original House version only included removal of suppressors, not short-barreled rifles. So if we go that route, we may lose progress made on the Short Act. It's a complicated situation, and lawmakers are weighing all of these paths. Right now, there are multiple proposed amendments being introduced, and a lot of moving parts. Lawmakers are offering different versions of these bills, and there's a strong push in the House to include the full language of both the Hearing Protection Act and the Short Act into what's now known as the Big Beautiful Bill. Once that happens, the bill would be sent back to the Senate, where we expect it to be reviewed again by the Senate Parliamentarian. There are ongoing discussions about whether the Parliamentarian herself should be removed, especially if she continues to block or water down the full repeal language. At the same time, the pressure will ramp up again on the Senate, particularly on establishment Republicans, to finally support the complete versions of these bills and deliver the outcome gun owners actually want. Now, for those who may not be familiar, let me explain what the original version of the Short Act was designed to do. It would completely remove the definitions of shotgun, rifle, and similar terms from Section 5845 of the NFA. That change would mean that short-barreled shotguns, short-barreled rifles, and other similar firearms would no longer be regulated under the National Firearms Act at all. The original version of the bill also made it clear that lawful purchases of such items would only require a standard background check, the same ATF Form 4473 you already complete when buying any firearm from a licensed dealer. There would be no additional registration requirements or special procedures, just a normal purchase process. That same full-strength version was also part of the Hearing Protection Act before it was weakened during House committee revisions and later amended further in the Senate. Crucially, the original language in both the Short Act and the HPA also stated that no taxes, either federal or state, could be levied against the purchase or possession of these items. That's the version we're fighting to get back into the bill. The version that fully removes these items from NFA regulation altogether. We're not interested in just reducing the tax from 200 to 0. That doesn't solve the problem. It's not the victory we've been fighting for. What we want is complete removal, a true win, not a half measure. The problem lies with the Senate Parliamentarian, who appears to be willing to allow a tax reduction, but not the full repeal of NFA regulation. She believes it's acceptable to bring the tax to 0, but still keep suppressors and short-barreled rifles under the NFA's control and registry. That's not enough. That's not what gun owners across the country are demanding. We need full repeal, full freedom, not just a break on fees while leaving the unconstitutional framework in place. Right now, it's absolutely critical that we continue putting pressure on the House, especially on House leadership. Call your representatives. Call Speaker Mike Johnson. Let them know, directly and without hesitation, that you support the full versions of both the Hearing Protection Act and the Short Act. Make it clear that you expect them to do the right thing for gun owners, or risk losing your vote in the midterms. This responsibility falls on all of us. We can't afford to sit back. If we don't take action now, we could lose this opportunity to repeal parts of the NFA permanently. So keep calling. Call once a day if you have to. If you're watching this video right now, call right after you finish. Tell your representatives that you want the full versions of the Short Act and the HPA added back into the House version of the bill. Not the watered-down tax reduction, but the complete repeal of these NFA restrictions. Here's where things currently stand. Both the Hearing Protection Act and the Short Act were passed in the Senate, but the versions included in H.R. 1, the big, beautiful bill, only removed the $200 tax. That's all. The Senate did not remove these items from the NFA. That's why the ball is now in the House's court. We need the House to fix this. We need them to reinsert the original full-strength versions of both acts. And the only way they'll do that is if they hear from us. So don't just call. Flood their phones. Send emails. Tag them on social media. Let your voice be heard. Let them know where you stand, and that your vote depends on their actions. This is the best chance we've had in a very long time to correct the overreach of the NFA. Things are changing quickly, hour by hour in some cases, and even late last night, major updates were still coming in. I'll keep you updated as the situation develops. If anything changes, if new versions are introduced, or if we see any movement in the House, I'll let you know right away. In the meantime, keep the pressure on. Keep calling, keep emailing, keep pushing.